Hi, my name is Bob Taylor. I'm here today with my guest, Mike Legge from the Ventura County Sheriff's Office. Thank you very much for being with us, Mike.
My pleasure, Bob.
So we're here today to talk about vaping. Is that vaping, the problems with it, but particularly in high schools?
Correct.
So all of this stuff here on the table, you have picked up in high school from high school students.
Correct. So this is just a small sample of the products, the vape products that we've confiscated off of high school students.
Okay, now, do you find more high school students vaping with marijuana or high school students vaping with THC?
Vape, really two issues with vaping at the high school level. We're getting the nicotine-based juices, which is the substance that they vape, right. And we get the THC, which is an extract of the marijuana that gives them the high. The
euphoria high. Now, which one, do you find one more than the other in the high school?
Probably about 50-50 at this point. We're seeing half of it's the THC and half of it's the nicotine juice.
You know, I mean, I'm old, but I remember in high school, 8 of us cramming into the bathroom and all puffing down on one quick cigarette before going back to class.
It's the same thing now, Bob. It's just not a cigarette. It's a vape device.
But back then, nobody ever even, people heard of marijuana, but that was the person out in the field,
right,
living with the corn or something.
Right. It's so much more readily available now that it's been legalized for obviously people of age over 21, that it's so much more prevalent in society now. It's just that much easier for the kids to get hold of.
Now, do you feel, nothing we can do about the movement, the movement's here, do you feel more regulations are needed to take care of some of this, or is there enough regulations, they're just not properly followed?
So vaping is such a new device, right? It's only been on the scene for maybe 10 or so years, that the regulations haven't really caught up to the devices yet. So yes, I think there's probably needs to be some regulation to help, but also a lot of education.
Right, okay. Now, I see people quite often in non-smoking areas vaping. Now, to me, this vape, it's vapor, not smoke, from what they tell me.
Right.
But to me, that's still smoking in a non-smoking area, whether it's smoke coming out of your ears, smoke coming out of your fingernails, or wherever.
There is a difference. The vapor is a water vapor that's being emitted along with whatever chemicals are in the vape juice. So there's some similarities, there's some differences, and that's going to have to be something that the legislatures address.
Have enough or any studies been done at all as to what the harmful effects of vaping smoke is?
So that's another thing that's kind of catching up, right? Because we've had 60, 70 years of data collected on, let's say cigarettes, right? So we really know the harmful, damaging effects of cigarettes. Vaping has only been around, let's say 15 or 20 years, so we don't have that huge pool of data to really nail down statistics. But even with that small amount of data, the medical field and scientists are able to determine that, yes, it is already showing signs that it's harmful. And in some cases, it's more harmful than cigarettes. In some cases, it's less harmful than cigarettes.
Well, regardless, the vaping of the nicotine is going to lead to cigarettes if they don't have the vape, because they're already junked out on nicotine of one kind or another.
Nicotine in itself is an addictive chemical, and whether you're getting it from a cigarette or from a vape, that you're still going to get addicted.
I heard nicotine was number 3 on the list of
addictive.
And marijuana or THC is about number 9 or so, but it's still on the addictive list. Okay, so I see how the marijuana can be a real problem for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's marijuana.
Right.
And number 2, they're under the legal age of buying legal marijuana.
So marijuana too has come a long way since, let's say, the 60s, right? In the days of Woodstock and the hippies, and everybody's getting high on marijuana. The typical marijuana content back in those days, the typical THC content, which is the drug or the chemical that actually gives you the high, the euphoria, back in the day of marijuana was about 5%. So THC was 5% of marijuana back then. Nowadays, the marijuana is being cultivated in such a way that the THC content of marijuana is up in the 30% range. So 15, 10 times
Right.
more THC.
Now, if we were talking adults over 21, although we can discuss whether 21 is a good age or not.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
your brain's still developing till you're 26, like we talked about.
Right.
So I don't see that as much of an issue because you have beer going to vodka. So you're getting. Now, what I do see a problem is if somebody's used to smoking, let's say a vape pen with 5 milligrams of THC or
5%.
5% THC, and then they go to a vape pen of 25%, they're going to. It's just like those that drinking a beer and then doing a bunch of shots of liquor, and you just can't match shot for beer.
Exactly, and what we're finding, so in the 60s it was 5% THC. Now in the marijuana itself, the leafy substance is say 25 to 30% THC. Actually, these vape pens, and you can see on like the packaging for the vape cartridges, this one right here has a THC content of 80 to 85%.
Wow, and nobody's going to tell me that's not designed for adults 21 years of age or more.
It's yeah. If you see on the back of this one, it's called Gorilla Glue. So, and it's got a cartoon character of a gorilla. So it's obviously targeted towards a very young population.
Yes, and I can see how maybe a 21 or 22-year-old would get a kick out of that, but they're not making them just for what they're going to sell 21 and 22-year-olds, and those that actually really need medical marijuana aren't looking for pretty pictures.
No, they're not. Yeah, it's and you can see that from the variety of products that I've brought along today, these things are not readily apparent that they're vape devices, right? You have small vape chargers that look like a computer USB device, or these things. It could be a key fob of some sort, and these are all things that are easily concealed.
And this looks almost like you're smoking one of those long cigarettes, those fancy ones, Virginia Slims or somebody like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the population in general, the older population, the parents and the grandparents aren't really in tune with what to look for.
Okay. Now, we can argue forever, or not necessarily me and you, but the society can argue forever whether or not medical marijuana is good or it isn't. So that's not our argument. Regardless, the nicotine and or the marijuana in high schools is just definitely wrong for any kid for any reason whatsoever.
Right.
And parents should be really getting down on them for that kind of thing, because even if you're going to allow your kids to smoke, high school is not the place for it, or at that age isn't the place for it.
Exactly. It's a twofold problem, because number one, it actually, it obviously affects the person that's doing the vaping, right? Whether they're vaping nicotine and getting a little buzz off of it, or they're vaping marijuana and getting
a big buzz off
a big buzz or a substantial high off of it. Those kids aren't in school learning that day.
Right.
But in addition, typically these are, taken in the dark corners of the school or in the bathrooms, and they're done in groups, so that, the kid that doesn't want to be around this sort of stuff doesn't want to go to the bathroom because there's kids in the bathroom vaping. But they're so concealable that it's difficult for the campuses to detect.
Okay, now here's something I don't know anything about, but I did watch a show years ago where they fed a bunch of people some rum cake and then put them right to a breathalyzer, and they were blowing. And the minute they had it in their mouth, they were blowing. 15 minutes later, they weren't.
Right.
Does the medical marijuana, how much of that goes into the next person, the residual smoke?
So it's less with the vape, because the cloud dissipates quicker, right? So that contact high, they used to call it, it is more limited. It's not non-existent. It still exists, but it's, instead of a 3 foot cloud, it's a 1 or 2 foot cloud, and it dissipates quickly because it is a water vapor that's heated. So it's like steam, right? Steam comes out of the pot, it dissipates fairly rapidly, versus say a cigarette smoke or a cigar smoke, which will hang around for a little bit.
Right, okay, so what would you say are the primary things the parents can look for to find out if their kids are vaping? Now, I do know with tobacco products, like a cigarette, you know if your kid's smoking a cigarette because it's hard to get that smell off. If they're smoking pot, it's hard to get that smell off.
Right.
And you can see them washing their hands every time they see you, or brushing their teeth.
Right.
With a vape product, it's not quite like that.
No, because they flavor. You know, you'll notice the different. There's bubblegum flavors. There's candy flavors and stuff. So actually, even the THC or the marijuana products have a sweet smell to them because it's more attractive to the younger generation to put something sweet into their mouth. So that's one of the things as far as detecting it is we've trained our teachers on campus to know if you're smelling something sweet actually in class, be aware that may be somebody vaping. So for parents also, if their kids come home and they smell kind of sticky sweet, something maybe.
You've been stopping at the candy store every
Yeah,
one way or another.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay, so what about, and I know this is a tough one for kids in high school, peer pressure everywhere. What do the kids do that see that going on in the corner? It's hard to, they don't know if somebody's got marijuana sometimes or if they got cigarette or whatever they're smoking, if they just see a cloud of smoke coming out, yet they really don't want to be associated with it. 95% of the kids in the school, or at least 90%, don't want anything to do with it. So we talk about problems in the school, but actually Camarillo, compared to other schools, is really pretty low as far as problems are concerned.
Right. Although the vaping trend has kind of transcended
has it?
Socioeconomic lines, it's really crossed over. So
it's going everywhere.
It's going everywhere. Right. So we at our school at Camarillo High School, we try to encourage the kids that don't want to be involved with it. You see something, say something. And we've got ways that the kids can report things without being obvious, right? They can text, they can go onto websites and such, and let us know, hey, this is going on here, or this is going on here. And then that helps administration go ahead and take care of the problem.
Well, I think one thing we really do need to do, we as a society, regardless of what side of any issue you're on, we really need to make sure that any place you can't smoke, you shouldn't be able to vape.
Right.
It used to be right after church or breaks at church or something, you'd see a few people sneak around the corner because you knew they were going to have a cigarette. Now you see more people just casually hitting the vape pen because this is okay here now, whereas my cigarette wasn't.
Right. And again, it's a perception issue. It's a newer technology that we don't know a lot about yet, and that's something that society's going to have to deal with.
Do you know of any legislation? I mean, we just had elections, but
Right.
do you know of anything coming up that could possibly more regulations on vape stuff, or is that all left up to the city itself?
I know it's taken care of at the city, at the different legislative levels, and I know there's legislatures that are talking about it. I don't know of any specific legislation right now that's in the works.
Right, okay.
To address that.
All right, we got a little over a minute left, Mike.
Okay.
What have we missed that our audience should know?
I think the audience needs to know, from a parental standpoint, get involved. Okay, your child's backpack or your child's room, your child's phone is not off limits to you.
Right.
Don't be a friend to your child. Be a parent.
No, very true.
Right, and be nosy, and they're not going to like it, but it's for their own good. As you said, their brains haven't developed until they're 26.
No, and they, I guess the younger they are, the more they don't realize. If you'd have told me when I was 21 or 22 that I can't touch alcohol because until I'm 26, I'd have gone crazy. But now that I'm a little older, I do realize that my brain, probably, if I'm ever going to have a fully operation brain, it's still working. But,
and the other thing is that this is harmful.
Right.
It actually does damage to the lungs in a way that your lungs won't recover from it. You're getting heated metals, you're getting chemicals in these vape juices that aren't meant to go into the human body. Right. So parents do need to be aware.
Mike, thank you very much for keeping us informed on the dangers of vaping.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
All right. My name is Bob Taylor. I've been here today with my guest, Mike Legge. I've been your host for this segment of Our Ventura TV. Until next time, thank you very much.